In 1993, id Software decided to follow up their mega-hit Wolfenstein 3D with something bigger, faster, and meaner. Well, three guys named John Carmack, John Romero, and Adrian Carmack did, shown here in one of the greatest pictures ever taken. Tom Hall back here wanted id to return to their roots, making side-scrolling platformers like Commander Keen, but Carmack is a computer wizard and continued to figure out new ways to bend ones and zeros to his will. The potential of what he figured out how to do was just too great to go back to making this. Kinda goofy. Doom is gaming royalty, a progenitor in a league all its own. There's a clear lineage that can be drawn from Doom to Quake, also made by id, that then branches off into first-person shooters and immersive sims. Hell, I'd argue Doom's DNA exists in a lot of horror games, with its grim atmosphere and monsters hidden in the dark waiting to ambush you. What makes it so special, at least for me, is that even 3 decades after its release, it's still a complete blast. The gameplay loop is as addicting as buffalo wings, combining fast, fluid movement with powerful guns against fierce opposition from the forces of hell itself. On top of that, Doom has possibly the most dedicated fan community for any game out there, and since the source code's been available forever, people have reverse-engineered Doom into basically everything. With the Dark Ages knocking on the door, and me having replayed Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal to death, I felt compelled to revisit the OG and finally get around to playing those myriad expansions that all the Boom Shoot YouTubers keep telling me are pretty good. But instead of taking things at a reasonable pace and doing each one piecemeal, we're mainlining this. The most recent Bethesda re-release from last year has every official release running on an updated game engine created by the wizards at Night Dive Studios, and including a brand new expansion with 16 new maps. In total, there's 187 campaign levels in here, and I'm playing them all. This was the dumbest idea I've had in a long time. Yep, that's it for the intro. Look at how long this script is. Get comfy, kiddos! Playing the original 3 episodes of Doom feels like a warm-up, stretching out the hammies. E1M1 is like riding a bike. Left for the armor, kill the zombies, get shotgun, blast through this room to the imps, clear out this room, open this secret, get the blue armor, back through, cross the trigger line, double back to clean the rest out, boom, easy. Most of my time with the first 3 episodes feels perfunctory. I'm more focused on the quirks of the port than I am on the game itself. This newest official release has a ton of options for crosshairs that can be tweaked to your heart's content, and a bunch of accessibility options as well, like a cleaner menu font. But I like my Doom as crunchy as possible. Perfect. Though turning on the classic font applies it to the new menus for the modern port, that's a nice touch. One thing that's off by default is the screen flash when taking damage or picking up items, which, don't get me wrong, I completely understand the reason for. Unfortunately, that red flash is the only real damage feedback that exists in the games, and it doesn't feel right to not see it when I get blasted in the face, so back on it goes. There's some additional lighting options because this game preserves the pitch blackness of certain areas in the original, which my poor millennial eyes need brightened up a smidge. You can play with Bobby Prince's original MIDI soundtrack, or the excellent remixes by Boom Shoot music lord Andrew Hulshult, or with no music at all, if you're a sociopath. I played knee-deep in the dead, quote-unquote, pure, no saving, pistol starting on ultraviolence with the MIDI tracks. After that, all bets were off. We're still on ultraviolence, but with the Hulshult soundtrack and saving every so often because this is an older game, and sometimes gets mean with damaging pits you can fall into and not get out of. Some of these levels do get a little touch and go, as I'm not as experienced with Doom as some other old heads are and don't know where all the secrets are. Doom 1 is... it doesn't feel right to call it primitive. Wolfenstein 3D is primitive. Doom 1 is more like a foundation. The real draw is what comes after, the tower of greatness built atop the solid base. There's not nothing to talk about though, so let's hit some bullet points. This room in Phobos Labs is where you really start feeling the burn of ultraviolence on a first playthrough. I know the big ambush is coming and sprint back to the entrance as soon as I trigger it to door fight. The ambush I forgot about is the one at the end of Central Processing where the doors lock behind you and the room floods with enemies, making using the rocket launcher suicide. Doom plays a reserved hand with its monsters in Episode 1. You've got 2 varieties of zombie soldier, one with a rifle and one with a shotgun, both consistent sources of bullets and shells respectively. It takes 1, maybe 2 shells to kill a shotgunner and you get 4 when you pick up his weapon, so the Doom shotgun shell economy is basically recession-proof. Imps are slightly tougher, but not too bad unless you get boxed in, or they come in massive hordes. Pinkies are meat shields for the ranged enemies, but can be stun-locked with the chainsaw. Part of me wishes I'd played this game as a wee lad, because I imagine the Double Baron of Hell reveal at the end of the episode hits incredibly hard before a certain age and level of shooter experience. Hell, I still feel a little jolt every time I open a door and hear that roar. It signals a real threat is in the room with you. Episode 2, The Shores of Hell, is where the Sandy Peterson maps start, who famously had a ton of work dropped on him 10 weeks before the game was scheduled to ship. And it shows. This episode is a little undercooked compared to the first one, where most of the maps were made by John Romero. Like, look at this whole hallway, it's like standing inside a Jolly Rancher. The maps start getting bigger and more mazy. I accidentally blunder into the secret exit and command center and get zapped to Fortress of Mystery, where... Engage circle strafe procedures! After that is Halls of the Damned, which I hate. This awkward section spent fumbling around in the dark, this death trap near the end of the map with a crusher you have to get caught in that offers no reward other than completion percentage, then having to backtrack through the map where a bunch of monster closets have opened, spilling pinkies into the hallways. Ugh. Barons of Hell start showing up more, they're big ammo sinks if you don't have any rockets, and let's not forget the cacodemons, toothy flying meatballs. Episode 2 still ends on a high note with the Cyberdemon fight, though. You can absorb a fair amount of damage in Doom if you have high enough armor, but this beefy bastard's rockets will obliterate you. There's only so much explosive force your face can absorb. Avoid these at all cost. Episode 3, Inferno, starts and ends rough with a middle. The opening of Hellkeep makes you fight cacodemons with a pistol, and Slough of Despair is a bad time. You have limited resources because Hellkeep only has one secret, and there's pinkies and cacodemons everywhere and these clusters of lost souls that always take one more fucking shot to vaporize than I think they should. You can pick up your first BFG in E3M3, which also has my favorite track in Doom 1 at Deep Into the Code. You can fire the shotgun in time to the song's rhythm, watch this. I kinda like Mount Erebus, it's stuffed to the gills with monsters to kill, though the fire blue makes my eyes bleed, and I don't think I've ever finished it legitimately because the secret exit to Warrens is real easy to find. I've never been able to really strafe run consistently, hang on. Warrens is a bastardized version of the Hellkeep layout with a Cyberdemon jump scare in this underground area that I save an invincibility for. My final most hated map in Doom is right after it though, Limbo, a slog through a layout that's mostly damaging floors. There's only 47 monsters in the entire level on Ultraviolence, and I'm ready to wrap the episode up, so I just used the wiki entry for the teleporter puzzle. Dis, the boss level, ends as soon as you kill the mastermind. Easy peasy. You know, I got all the way through Hell and didn't see a single sign of Ronald Reagan, what gives? We ain't done yet, though. Doom 1 got a 4th episode in 1995, a year and a half after its original release. Thy Flesh Consumed is infamous for its cruelty, so for the sake of my own sanity, I dropped the difficulty to hurt me plenty just this once. I do this because the first level, Hell Beneath, has 9 health pickups on Ultraviolence, all of which are the dinky little blue baubles that give you 1 HP. 1. It's stuffed to the gills with shotgunners that teleport in behind you, there's a Baron running around, and only 1 rocket launcher on the map that requires taking a bit of damage to get. It's dickish. The level after it's even worse. According to John Romero, he made Perfect Hatred in 6 hours, and it feels like it. This level made me quit playing Doom the first time through and go right to Doom 2, and is the other reason why I don't play Thy Flesh Consumed on Ultraviolence. Where to start? The whole thing is over a giant lava pit that's incredibly easy to fall into, and the only way out is a damaging staircase. There's this trap near the plasma gun that pops out 3 Barons when you grab it. This is on Hurt Me Plenty, and the sheer volume of pinkies guarding the exit will eat through all your shotgun shells. Though this is another map I almost never finish the normal way because I always just go to the secret exit. Thy Flesh Consumed lets its foot off your neck a little after the first 2 levels and gets pretty good after. Map 3, Sever the Wicked, is probably my favorite map, action-packed with a nice flow. There's one more dick kick waiting in E4M6 against the Wickedly, which has a ton of damaging floors requiring you to manage hazard suit power-ups, and just when you think you're done, it drops a Cyber Demon on you. Hold, please. Two more levels and another mastermind fight later, we're done with OG Doom. Finally, time for Doom 2. Sigil was created by John Romero for Doom's 25th anniversary in 2019. Canonically, it's episode 5 of Doom, so I have to play it here. It only uses Doom 1 monsters and weapons anyway. This is the first batch of levels I've never played before, and John busted out his thesaurus for some of these names. Baphomet's Domain sounds like something I should see in tree branch font on the cover of an album that sounds like it was recorded in a cave. The first map introduces a new kind of switch, these evil eyes that were just props before that you now need to shoot to open doors and shift the level geometry. Sigil has a completely different vibe than the Hell levels before it. It's darker, smokier, ominous red light oozing from cracks in the world around you. While there's still doors to open with keys, they're all the wooden kind, none of the tech-based stuff. Most of the maps, if you zoom them out, are small, isolated environments in the midst of cavernous voids. Going from level to level feels like I'm being toyed with, like I'm not progressing towards an escape but just being lured deeper and deeper in by the whims of something sinister. The episode doles out weapons conservatively. You have to fight a few barons with a shotgun before you get a rocket launcher or a plasma gun. There's enough ammo to get by, but even with some secrets found, I was never totally flush with supplies. The levels here are all really solid, there's only two things I feel the need to complain about. The first is in the 5th map, Abaddon's Void, where you go into this room and there's a series of triggers to lower the wall and open up the room. After you cross this floor switch, this ledge outside the previous building gets raised, but it does so really quietly. I didn't realize at first and ran in circles for 10 minutes because I heard doors opening and closing every time I crossed a certain point in the floor, and thought that's what I needed to look for. The maps before this were really good about audio-visual cues with switches and doors, so I was hardwired to hunt down a door that wasn't there. That one's partially on me, and getting to telefrag the Cyber Demon made up for it. The other thing is this ending section of Nightmare Underworld, the penultimate map, which is purposefully malicious. Each section of these battlements has a teleporter trap that catapults you into small rooms full of monsters, a tenderizer to soften you up before this bit here, navigating along teeny tiny ledges, and then into this last room that takes me an embarrassing number of times to cross the finish line. Other than those two snarls, Sigil's a good time. Paths of Wretchedness in the middle of the episode has a structure I enjoy. Unspeakable Persecution is a bloodbath that has the exit to the secret level Realm of Iblis, which has a Cyber Demon fight that I squeak through by the power of the monster's inability to take splash damage into account. Nailed it. The secret level's music is a bop, too. Actually, all the MIDI music in Sigil is great. It was made by a guy named James Paddock and keeps the spirit of the old-school Bobby Prince tunes. The Map 1 music Hate Machine has this flourish in the second part of the loop that sounds like a Hammond organ and is just mwah, tasty. Have a listen. Go to Bandcamp and buy the album, that's an order. The final level has an ending stretch with both a Mastermind and a Cyber Demon in it. Excuse me, I'm looking for a Mr. Ronald Wilson Reagan. Have either of you two seen him lately? Time for the main event. I played way more Doom 2 than Doom 1. It's beefier, meaner, and just better. There's more monsters per level, but you get a tool to help with that, and you all know what I'm talking about. We're so close. If there's one thing that really sets the tone of Doom 2 right out the gate in the first map entryway, it's that you can take about 3 steps back and to the left and grab a chainsaw. There's also a secret with a rocket launcher. They give you a rocket launcher on map 1, but the real game starts with map 2, Underhalls. Where is it? 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 The super shotgun is majestic. A buckshot venting annihilator of demon kind. A weapon to topple gods. Every minor annoying thing about classic Doom fades into the background as soon as you get it, rendered silent in comparison to the thunder of its firing. None can stand before it, and those who try are cut down like wheat before the scythe. Hallowed be its sprite, and your enemies will know of its coming by the carpet of dead it leaves in its wake. It does this to a group of zombies. Look at it. Beautiful. The super shotgun is the only new weapon you get in Doom 2, and I think they made it so goddamn powerful to compensate for the enemies they added. The first is the chain gunner, this hit-scan hoss that's tougher than the other human zombies, but is a consistent source of bullet ammo. The starting levels are all recognizable places: military installations, a sewer, an industrial facility with a crusher that turns this mastermind into a pancake. Usually. In this map, we meet new monster number 2.
Rattle me bones!
Yeah, there they are. Come here, you bony bastards. The Revenants are rocket-launching annoyances, but I just can't help loving them. Dead Simple introduces 2 more monsters. The Mancubus is like a beefy Revenant, firing double projectiles as it lumbers around, and the Arachnotron is a mini spider mastermind with a plasma cannon. Tricks and Traps is more abstract in design, each spoke with a wheeled layout stuffed to the gills with monsters, but it doesn't feel like a place per se, same with the pit immediately after it. New monster number 4 is used heavily in these 2 maps, the Pain Elemental, a masterclass in dickish enemy design. Hey, you know those really annoying enemies that are mobile, small, and surprisingly durable? Let's make another enemy that can spawn those infinitely! I also forgot to talk about Hell Knights, which are just recolored barons. They get a more defined look as the series goes on. I also don't like them because they deal the same damage as barons, but because they have less health, they're used more often. Ugh. Refueling Base is next and is an early standout map. I wake up a whole bunch of monsters early on, thinking they'll just infight and thin the herd for me to clean up later. This was a mistake, because one of the things I woke up was a Pain Elemental. And I learned this the hard way when, oh sweet Jesus! There's a billion secrets in this map, and I make liberal use of the chainsaw to save ammo while clearing out areas like a demon exterminator. At the end, I forgot to stagger the invincibilities to cheese the cyber demon, so I have to play chicken with him for a minute. Later, nerd. Doom 2 doesn't have separate episodes like the first game, it's all one continuous shot, but it's still separated into 3 distinct sections separated by text crawls. Circle of Death caps off the first one. It's a good map, good encounters, and plenty of resources. It's also where we meet the last of the monster lineup.
Finally, a worthy opponent.
There's priority targets, and then there's the Archvile. They're beefier than every other non-boss enemy save for the Baron, they're faster, they have a devastating fire attack, and most importantly, they can resurrect dead enemies. Most battles in Doom require you to be fast and flexible with your weapons and movement based on what's in front of you, but as soon as you hear this, the only thing that matters is finding this lanky bastard and putting him down as fast as possible. Doom 2's middle third starts with 2 big duds, unfortunately. Since we're in the city fighting towards the heart of the demon infestation, the levels start trying to emulate realistic places and environments. Emphasis on trying. The build engine was still a twinkle in Ken Silverman's eye, so the team at id had to work with what they had. The factory is big, with lots of empty space and an exit room that locks you inside with a bunch of meatballs. Awesome, thanks Sandy. Downtown is a mess, with a giant arrow slapped on the ground texture to show you where to start, and even then I fumble around for 20 minutes before pulling up the wiki because I can never remember the exact teleporter and key sequence. Inmost Dens is solid, not much I feel like I need to talk about, which brings us to Industrial Zone, a Romero joint. Still on the bigger side with a lot of empty space, but more colorful and interesting to look at. The design suggests the urban environment is being ripped up from beneath, which we see taken to its ludicrous extreme in Doom Eternal. The trap where you pick up this BFG is a real kick in the nads, though. A running leap off the battlements here will get you to this switch, which leads to this room, which opens this door to the secret levels. Guten Tag, Schweinhunde! Wenn du hier bist, heißt das, dass Ronald Reagan in der Nähe ist. Wo kann ich finden? Ich muss mit ihm sprechen. The hidden Wolfenstein levels each have killer supply caches, a nice mid-episode refill, which helps when I get blasted by an archvile 30 seconds into suburbs. I also get a chance here to demonstrate the sheer determination of Revenant rockets. These things are a curse in open areas. The best way to deal with them is to put your back to a wall and sidestep because their ability to chase you around is ludicrous. Grabbing the blue key in this map triggers this absolute bloodbath. Don't forget to go back into the first house and grab the secret megasphere before you leave. Tenements is another close quarters Romero banger, though I'm starting to sense a theme of him putting pain elementals in traps. Not cool. The courtyard is less good. I'm beginning to think I just don't like Sandy Peterson's habit of putting big open areas in his maps. They always wind up feeling kinda empty. When his maps hit, though, they hit, which leads me to the Citadel. A castle is much better suited to the blocky, angular designs possible in the Doom engine and feels more like a grounded place. I love the moat you can run around in, all the secret paths, even the big courtyard in the middle because it's a castle and it makes sense to have a big courtyard. There's 3 keys to find in the level, but I don't think I've ever found the yellow key. I always just squeeze out with the blue and the red. Gotcha is a borderline gag map to end the game's second act. The girls fight it out, and this is the first time I think I've ever seen the Cyber Demon take the W. Also, it's really been some time since I sat with Doom 2 because I'm not doing so hot dodging archvile attacks this go around. The home stretch begins with... Okay, am I the only one who thinks it's a bit on the nose that the first weapon you can pick up in the level called Nirvana is a shotgun? Doom 1 had Hell Classic, Sigil has Charcoal Briquette Hell, and Doom 2 has Hieronymus Bosch Hell. The levels waver between abstract layouts and more concrete places like the Catacombs, the first of the real brutal levels in this last stretch. This teleporter is a trap, do not take it, you'll come out the other end into a chain gunner firing squad. Next is the infamous Barrels of Fun, where I have more trouble with this hallway full of pain elementals than I think I've ever had before. The Chasm is the worst level in Doom 2. I think I quicksave more in this one level than the entirety of Doom 1. Having to navigate along these tiny, tiny ledges where enemies pop up out of the pits, another Jolly Rancher room full of pinkies, bad time, let me out. Bloodfalls and Abandoned Mines are both fine, I enjoy Monster Condo, and I love the penultimate 2 maps. The Spirit World fakes you out with all this environment stuff that you think will damage you, freaks you out with the 2 masterminds lurking down here, and then gives you tons of cell ammo and invincibility so you can go nuts. A non-sarcastic, thank you Sandy. The Living End is Romero's last contributed level and features a lot of his design hallmarks, the big central area to orient yourself, revisiting spaces, the hordes of cacodemons. Alright, John, once is whatever, 2 is coincidence, but 3 is a fucking pattern. The Icon of Sin, the end of the line. Since we didn't have the computer power in the 90s to render him out fully, they made a big wall texture and asked you to use your imagination. The icon continuously spawns demons, and since they hadn't figured out mouse look yet, you have to ride an elevator up and dump 3 rockets into his brain. It always takes me a few tries because I can never remember the timing. But between you and me, most community source ports have full mouse look integrated in, and you can just ride the elevator up and boom, 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 done. Or you can no-clip past the face entirely and have a chat with John Romero's head on a stick about his pain elemental placement. What's up, John? And that's Doom 2 done. Despite the rough patches, one of the all-time greats, and I never regret going back to play it. What's next? So obviously I cheated the play order on the menu here and did Sigil early to fit in with Doom 1, because everything else in this collection uses Doom 2 as a base. Doom is incredibly easy to work with, and people quickly develop tools to make custom levels. Back in the day, you could go on the internet the hard way, and download maps made by fellow gamers, or go to a Circuit City and buy an officially licensed CD containing hundreds of levels. I vaguely remember seeing these walking through stores with my mom, who apparently had to have an extensive discussion with my dad before they ever got me a T-rated game, so no way in hell was I getting to play Doom. It turns out I wasn't missing much because most of the levels jammed into these collections like sardines were bad. Apparently the powers at id weren't fans of the Shovelware CDs, they weren't good quality and none of the windfall came back to them. Thus, the master levels. id contracted 6 Doom community members to contribute 21 levels and create an expansion made up of some good food. They succeeded. Mostly. The first 2 maps are Attack and Canyon by Tim Willits, who also made 2 of the better levels in Thy Flesh Consumed and worked at id until fairly recently. Both of them are tech bases and it feels right for them to be first. They're on the smaller side and go light on the high tier monsters. I leave Canyon with plenty of ammo in every weapon but the chainsaw and the BFG. Quick and fun, no complaints. Next up is 4 levels by Kristen Klee, who cut his teeth making Doom levels and later worked at LucasArts with credits on the shooter Outlaws and the Rogue Squadron trilogy, among others. His levels have a gimmicky feel about them. The first one, Catwalk, brings back the narrow ledge stuff from the Chasm, which I don't like, but his second map, the Fistula, is better, with a nice layout that wraps around on itself with its elevator as the main focus. Though once again I alert a pain elemental without realizing it and... The Combine feels like every room could have been shrunk by about 20% to tighten up the encounters. There's almost too much room to move around here. Subspace is next, another map that's a little too open. The layout is weird and I spent like 15 minutes running back and forth trying to figure out how to lower this platform with the yellow key, and I'm still not sure how I did it. Also, I somehow managed to step through the teleporter without grabbing the key and had to circle back again. The next level, Paradox, is the sole map contributed by Tom Mustaine. It's good for the most part, with revenants placed high up to drop rockets on you that you have to keep in mind while you clear out the riffraff. I do have to dink it for this weird secret with a megasphere behind a fake wall where an archvile is waiting to ambush you. The archvile doesn't wake up until you walk in, so there's no danger of him resurrecting the stuff outside. All you have to do is play peekaboo. Still, not bad. 2 more Kristen Klee levels follow, and they're stinkers. Subterra is somehow even more excessively open than Combine and Subspace and is mostly just boring, but I have a real bone to pick with his last map in here, the Garrison. It does the thing I hate where you have to hunt for switches that open things you can't see and requires a bunch of back and forth trips through the same areas. Its greatest sin, however, is the key situation. First is the blue. You hit this switch, which is not tied to the elevator it's right above, and instead opens this wall over here, which you then go through to hit another switch which lowers a pillar in a different part of the map. Alright. Second, red key. Go back down this elevator, dodge the crushers, and activate this switch to open up a teleporter. Taking it puts you back in the crusher room. You then have to know that you have to turn around and go back through the teleporter you just left because it switches destinations and puts you on the ledge with the red key for some reason. Alright. And then there's the yellow key. After 2 keys need to be found with teleporters, you might think there's a third and final teleporter to get the yellow key, and spend 20 minutes humping every wall until the din of your spacebar being tapped has wormed its way into your brain and you finally cave and look up how to get it and you just have to run off the ledge. Fucking hell! The first time through I gave up, punched in the old IDKFA and hoofed it for the exit. Admittedly, this made navigating a few later levels easier because I was thinking about strafe running constantly. The rest of the master levels come in a jumbled order from 3 more authors. The late John Anderson, aka Dr. Sleep, his contributed levels are pulled from his larger custom episode Inferno, and he'd go on to work on Blood and Unreal. Jim Flynn, who made a number of maps casually and apparently enjoyed... The fuck is a Mandelbrot set fractal? I'm gonna hurl! And Sverre Andre Kvernmo, aka Cranium, who would go on to help work on Redneck Rampage and Kiss Psycho Circus. Kvernmo is the maker of the level placed after the garrison, and let me tell you, I don't feel bad about cheating and leaving that one with almost full health and ammo, because I was going to need every bit of both for... The Black Tower is the most bonkers level I've seen yet, a sprawling, spiraling nexus of brutality. If there's one level I'd love to take into Doom Builder and crack open to see how it works, it'd be this one. Someone less insane would have built it so the tower itself was the end piece, a bit of Doom cute design after a maze or something. And it'd be more of the suggestion of a tower and it would have been fine. But no. Cranium somehow figured out, in 1995, how to make all of this. I lose a bunch of health in the beginning courtyard because I missed these shotgunners on the wall. Even though I use quick saves, my rule is to only load them if I really screw up, like falling into an inescapable pit or dying. So I trudge forward and it's a literal uphill battle for the rest of the level. The tower has multiple floors, which are just enclosed areas separate from the tower connected by teleporters, but shh, it's part of the magic. Each one a different flavor of pain. The screws really start to tighten in this room here, where this main switch is a trap that locks you in with 4 barons and the space is just tight enough that using the rocket launcher is a bad idea. Past that is an enclosed room with more barons and specters, except somehow, the room is rigged with teleporters that only the enemies can trigger. It's a miracle I don't get telefragged in here. To progress forward, you have to open up this wall and... Oh, no, don't get teleported, fuck! After dealing with all that, you reach the top where there's arachnotrons and a cyber demon waiting for you. If that was the end of things, I'd be satisfied. But no, you need to hump your ass back down the tower, most of which is now repopulated with new monsters that have been unleashed from hidden closets or teleported in from somewhere. Oh yeah, bring it on. Oh, Jesus, look at them all. I'm exhausted by the end, and seeing this result screen is immensely satisfying. A+ stuff. The levels after the Black Tower have a real cigarette after a smash feeling. The next 5 maps are all by the aforementioned Dr. Sleep, and they're all pretty solid. The man knows how to place an arch file for maximum player panic inducement. Though I'm not a fan of his habit of putting a Revenant in the exits, that's a dick move. Also, in another instance of something becoming a pattern, I wake up another friggin' pain elemental, and only realize it when... The next 2 levels are by Jim Flynn. Titan Manor feels like a bigger, meaner version of Monster Condo and has entirely too many mancubi. Trapped on Titan is an even bigger, meaner version of that, this sprawling complex of rooms and traps full of monsters and 2 real nasty archvile placements. I can't be too mad at it though, because the map gives you what you need. Health and armor everywhere, a rocket launcher in one of the first rooms, enough ammo for it that you're tripping over the boxes. Great map, one of my favorites. The home stretch brings us back into Sverre Kvernmo's world. Express Elevator to Hell has an interesting design, a spoked prison complex. You have to activate various switches and triggers on ascending floors, and I would really like to know where he hid all these Revenants and Barons. The Black Tower was savage but felt reasonable due to the space to maneuver. Express Elevator feels dickish, with it constantly forcing you to fight high-level monsters in confined areas. There's a secret exit in this map requiring an archvile jump, where you intentionally tank a hit from an archvile while strafe running because it scrambles the primitive movement physics and actually bounces you upwards. There's an invincibility tucked away in here to make this a less lethal endeavor. Bad Dream is... Oh, look at them all. Bloodsea Keep is less painful and has some good theming, though I find it a bit too big in places. Mephisto's Mausoleum caps off the master levels and is back to being punishing. Having to fight these barons in this confined box area is a huge pain. I'm not a fan of how the finale is basically a race against the clock to kill the icon, which I guess technically the original fight also is, but this one is more obnoxious. At the top, you get a face full of Arachnotron and 2 barons, and there's a trigger here that makes the icon start spawning monsters. You have to kill, or somehow survive, 3 high-level monsters in melee range just to be able to take the time needed to line up the shots, which requires more than just 3 rockets because the brain socket of the icon has a wall of specters in front of it. So you have to survive all of this long enough to send enough rockets downrange to plow through the specter meat shield and into the brain. Further complicating this is that the icon spawns monsters in the room you're in, so you very well might get telefragged. The way I did it was what I think is the intended way. Taking an invincibility from this secret, danger closing the monsters while invincible, and then just letting fly with all my rockets. And that's the ballgame. Despite a few questionable humps, the master levels were mostly pretty good. What else we got? Oh god, there's still a lot left. Okay, so TNT, originally short for Trials and Tribulations, but officially short for the new technology, has a bit of a reputation. Developed by a large collective of Doom mappers known as Team TNT, the episode was originally supposed to be released for free online, only for an official deal with id to be reached the literal night before. People were a bit miffed about it. There's 32 maps here by a wide variety of authors. They range in quality from pretty okay to some of the worst ever officially released levels. And more of the latter than the former, honestly. The first level, System Control, at least has a Berserk in the first room that lets me punch out enough enemies for these 2 achievements, as well as this bop of a music track. The first run of levels here are all military bases and are mostly okay, but on the bland side. Hangar wakes me up a little bit with this room here. There's a decidedly high amount of zombie enemies in these maps, making walking into every room a coin toss where tails means you stumble into a firing squad. Map 8, Metal, introduces another feature of TNT, giant cavernous rooms full of weak enemies. Like, this is massive, easily bigger than any room in anything I've played up to this point. The next map is Stronghold, and this one's the first real pain in the ass. Out of the 297 enemies on this map, only 1 isn't a hit-scanning zombie. Crank that firing squad analogy up to maximum, because every nook and cranny of this map hides a fucking platoon of undead soldiers. Enough that their bodies carpet the floor after I'm done. This is the other thing that TNT does a lot, stuffing a billion fodder monsters into these massive levels to take advantage of their attacks being hit scan. Rounding the wrong corner means you get Swiss cheesed, and ignoring them at a distance results in getting cherry tapped to death. I even knew about this going in and thought that the sheer volume of weak enemies would at least get my heart rate up from bloodlust. But after fighting through the Black Tower and trapped on Titan where enemy volume is done right, utilizing the whole roster in varied environments, running through levels using nothing but the chain gun and shotgun over and over is boring, which is a heretical word to use in relation to a Doom level. Crater has this giant open nonsense and makes me wonder who this particular Baron ticked off enough to be exiled out here all on his lonesome. I spent about 3 minutes in Dead Zone because the secret exit is incredibly easy to find. I'm actually going to skip over talking about TNT's secret maps for now, I'll talk about them in a bit. Deepest Reaches is where the campaign really starts to fall off a cliff. I think I somehow sequence broke the level because I managed to finish it with 1 key. The next few maps are mostly boring, with the one exception being this Archvile trap in Mill. Central Processing is where TNT really starts to test my fucking patience. The sheer volume of hit scanners forces you to play every single room like it's Call of Duty on Veteran, popping in and out of cover to avoid losing half your health because God forbid you stand in the open for more than a quarter second. No, that's fine, that's great. Like, this isn't difficult, it's tedious. It's the designers waging a war of attrition on the player, asking if you can complete the map before the hit scanners chip you to death. Administration Center at least has an interesting idea for its layout, except it's way too fucking big. Easiest cyber demon of the video thus far. Habitat just feels unfinished and we reach the bottom of the barrel after that. Boring tech base, 3 boring earthly maps, and then right into the gutter with the worst level in TNT, possibly in this whole official release canon, Mount Pain. It's entirely too big, God help you if you don't stagger the rad suits to get through this toxic tunnel, go up these stairs and face down this absolute horde of imps. Turn to retreat back down the stairs, run smack into the Bone Brigade. This exit breaks me. There's chain gunners on the walls, high up revenants raining missiles down on you, and don't forget the cacodemons and the endlessly spawning lost souls that exist solely to throw off your aim so that the other more dangerous enemies can shred you. If you somehow manage to get through all that, you then have to break through a wall of mancubi, revenants, and an archvile in this last room. I spent a half hour on this section alone before throwing in the towel, tossing on God mode, and bulldozing through. I was gonna turn it off right away at the start of the next level, except there's 4 fucking revenants in the starting room with no cover. Penultimate level River Styx is fine, I guess, and then we finally flop across the finish line with Last Call. It ends with an Icon of Sin fight again, and this one sucks. I can forgive the original at the end of Doom 2 for being a little clunky because they hadn't figured out vertical mouse look and remedied that with the platform thing. The Master Levels one was tricky but doable with the invincibility secret and being quick. This one? In order to even get into position to shoot the brain, you have to do some janky Doom movement onto these ledges to drop down onto this ledge to hit a switch and raise some stairs. The icon starts spawning stuff the moment you enter the room, so there's already probably a few monsters up here that you can't clear out with the rocket launcher due to the auto-aim and the clutter, so you have to use something else. You then have to stand just so on these stairs while the icon spawns monsters, and unlike in the Doom 2 finale where they wind up on this terrace platform with some distance between you and them, they're right behind you. Like, look at how long it takes me to actually nail the icon when I gave up and turned God mode back on. Fuck TNT, I'm never playing this again. Surely it can't get much more difficult than this. Clicking through the menu to access Plutonia is like making the motions to unlock a lament configuration. Within its boundaries lie sensations and sights both beautiful and terrible, a suffering such that borders on succor, a euphoria built from agony. And you like it, don't you? Plutonia was released in 1996 with Final Doom alongside TNT. Unlike that map set, Plutonia was made by just 2 guys, brothers Dario and Milo Casali. Milo? I've heard Milo used more, so I'm gonna go with that. I glossed over the secret levels in TNT to talk about them here because both of them, Pharaoh and Caribbean, were made by Dario and they're easily the best levels in that expansion by a mile. Pharaoh is a little too big in places, but it swings for the fences with the Egyptian aesthetic. There's plenty of ammo and health lying around to compensate for the strength of the enemies you face. I really like this ending bit where you clear out the final courtyard of dangerous monsters and hit this switch to lower the walls and it takes like a minute. And I was sitting there waiting to see what onslaught awaited behind them, only for it to be one zombie guy. It's a good joke, but the real punchline is that when you fire a weapon to kill that zombie... More meatballs than an Olive Garden kitchen, jeez. The super secret level Caribbean also gives you plenty of health and ammo, and then tasks you with using said resources to survive a steamrolling of high level enemies placed in ways to catch you off guard. Though the Cyber Demon at the end kills more of the final horde than I do. And then there's one last little screw twist waiting with an archvile hidden behind a fake wall right next to the exit. Very cute. In hindsight, the common threads between these 2 TNT maps, the selective but very pointed use of chain gunners, an ossuary's worth of revenants, the fake walls, the mean archvile placement, all balanced out by generous amounts of resources, these are the Casali staples. Both brothers seem to be on the same wavelength with their map design quirks, and Plutonia feels way more tight and focused because of it. Like a noose around your neck. No, you don't believe me? Well, here's the first map, Congo. Shotgunners to start, okay. Kill a couple to pick up their weapon and get the ball rolling. Awful generous of Milo to put a backpack and blue armor right upstairs at the start. In the next room we can duck down a hallway and there's a super shotgun guarded by some chain gunners, which were a little spicy for the first map, but TNT did that too. Take the box up and... there is an archvile in the second room of the Plutonia experiment. Not just the first level, the second room. This is the first in a long chain of nasty surprises the Kasalis left in every single map. The second one is when you go to pick up this med kit and you get jumped by 4 revenants, though if you go into their monster closets, there's a rocket launcher and boxes of ammo. Then...
this is getting out of hand. Now there are 2 of them.
Doom 2 threw 2 archviles at you one time near the end of the campaign. The Plutonia experiment has an average of 3 archviles per map. The first half dozen levels ratchet up the brutality little by little. Well of Souls uses some weird arcane engine hackery to make an invisible bridge here, and Aztec has another one in this room full of pain elementals, arachnotrons, and revenants. Map 4, Caged, is an early highlight for me. Close quarters, take risks, be quick or be dead, and slaughter everything in your way. I've got every weapon but a BFG now, and it'll be a bit before I get one of those. Ghost Town is next, and I have no idea how anyone who pistol starts is supposed to get past the opening where you get a lone shotgun to take on a foursome of Barons and Revenants. Guarding the blue key is a mastermind with a chain gun support squad. Map 5, everybody! And when you go to pick it up... the legends of Plutonia's difficulty are true, no doubt, but it's a specific flavor of difficulty, a more thoughtful kind. TNT just plonked down dozens of hit scanner enemies and told you to figure it out. Plutonia displays an intentional malice, asking how specific combinations of enemies can best be used to brutalize the player, but also giving you ample resources and rewarding thoughtful fighting. The end of Ghost Town is a great example of this. The final room has an archvile and 6 barons guarding the exit. You could try to bulldoze through the lot of them, but it would be near impossible due to the Baron's damage and the Archvile's damage and ability to resurrect the Barons. But if you take a second to stick your head in and look, you realize that the Archvile is locked in place due to some clever level design, which means that all you have to do is lure the Barons into the hallway and staircase outside, out of the Archvile's line of sight and resurrection range, and kill them one by one, then just finish off the Archvile once it's all alone. Looks like a daunting wall of enemies, but can be broken down and dealt with safely with a bit of strategy. The good design stuff extends to the available resources, too. They're plentiful but not unlimited. Save Berserk Packs, Blue Armors, and Megaspheres for when you're really low on health and armor. Don't waste a whole green armor pickup when you're at 90%. Also stay cognizant of when there's a whole bunch of rockets or plasma cells by a teleporter or door, because it's a signal that you're absolutely about to get jumped.
It's a trap, sir.
It's all punishing, but well thought out enough that I can forgive Plutonia when it does occasionally dip into outright sadism, like this circular ending room in Map 9 with this chain gunner firing squad, Mancubi, Revenants with the high ground, and pits that require a quick load if you fall into them because there's no way out. I'm heady with bloodlust at the end of the first 10 maps. Hunted? What am I hunting? Oh. Map 12, Speed, ironically slows me down and takes me a while with its ersatz layout and reliance on teleporters. If I have to knock Plutonia for something, it's the inconsistency with damaging floors. There's no designated texture for what'll hurt you and what doesn't. Sometimes water is just water, other times it's blue acid, like you find in a battery, or Mountain Dew voltage. My automatic response to seeing the rivers of blood is to try and find a way around it all because I assume it'll damage me, but it actually doesn't, so I just waste 10 minutes running around trying to avoid something that isn't hazardous. Much of Plutonia after this disappears into a haze of violence. The levels are designed more in an arcadey video game way where they're not trying to so much to emulate real places, but instead focus on creating and engaging kill boxes, where the kill box is simultaneously both for you and the enemies. The Twilight has this nasty layout that renders it pointless for you to kill these chain gunners at the far ends of this ledge, because there's archviles hidden in the walls that constantly resurrect. You have to navigate around them and minimize trips through this open area because you're 100% eating damage every time you pass through. Also, you get up close and personal with a mastermind right at the end here. Excuse me, pardon me, excuse me, just want the Megasphere, thank you. This ending room in the Omen almost gets me because I used all my cells and can't BFG this hit scanner firing squad. The Death Domain has one of the meanest opening areas yet, this big courtyard with clear sight lines for the hit scanners and the arachnotrons. I have to keep loading a save from right before the end of the prior level. Slayer is just Circle of Death again, but way worse. At one point in this level, the auto-aim screws me over by directing a BFG blast right into a Lost Soul instead of the Pain Elemental I meant it for. I mean, I do hate Lost Souls that much, but I don't like wasting ammo. Impossible Mission might be another favorite of mine. I like the layout and the traps feel a little less sadistic. Or maybe I'm just acclimated to it at this point. Like, I just know something's gonna happen when I pick up this red key, and hey, would you look at that? A bit of TNT starts to creep in towards Plutonia's finish line. The levels get noticeably bigger and there's an uptick in chain gunners. The Final Frontier is my personal pick for the worst map in the campaign because this one is Milo Casali taking the piss. A treacherous layout relying on clunky Doom Engine platforming, and this absolutely too fucking big room that seems to be structured in such a way that allows this specific chain gunner to bullseye you with perfect accuracy. I think this room forces more resets out of me than anywhere else. Bunker gives me an opportunity to illustrate the perils of quick saving like I do. Normally I'm pretty good at picking the right moment to plonk one down, but I screwed up on this one and have to fight through a nasty horde of enemies with so little health that a slight breeze would kill me. The two penultimate maps are massive in a good way. The sewers has a ton of room to maneuver and uses that as an excuse to toss hordes of enemies at you, including this bit here where I turn this hallway into the bridge at the end of the Mines of Moria.
You shall not pass!
The next level is a giant cityscape like we saw back in the base campaign for Doom 2, and I really like it. It brings back that feeling of merciless building by building sweeping, not letting any of these demon bastards live. Also, the level is called Odyssey of Noises, which is both a fantastic name for a level, and the way I'm going to describe Knocked Loose from now on. The Gateway of Hell is a spicy icon of sin fight, requiring you to kill a cyber demon that'll otherwise body block your rockets. It's not as cheap as the TNT finale, and it's the last time we're going to see this big flat bastard in this video, so I give myself some mid-fight checkpoints to go back to and power through without cheating. Imagine having a rocket launcher in your coffin and someone goes to rob your grave. We ain't done yet, though. I dropped a hard save back in the Twilight because Plutonia has 2 secret maps accessible through a hidden teleporter here. Just gotta grab the Megasphere. Move it, you big lunk! Cyberden is an interesting little nugget of a level, though I think this hallway with the 2 archviles that immediately teleport behind invisible walls is the most dangerous part of it. You have to release 4 cyber demons one at a time, and I have plenty of cells and rockets, so it's not too bad. Oh, you bony bastards! Yeah, you thought you could get one up on me. Come here! This brings us to Plutonia's grand finale, a map so infamous I'd heard tales of it before ever even playing Doom before. And what name is given to this colossus of conflict, this gameplay gauntlet, this final challenge in the hardest official Doom release? Go to it. Go to it. Huh. Not gonna lie, I'm a little disappointed. Wait, this is all the guns right off the bat. And there's a BFG just lying out here ready for... Oh! Oh! I don't know what it is. I don't know why we're going to it. All I know is that I must kill. Go to it is Plutonia's final form, the entirety of my earlier Hellraiser metaphor distilled into a single map. The monster list reads like a sick joke. 28 Mancubi, 26 Arachnotrons, 11 Pain Elementals, 19 Archviles, 3 of which are hidden in this monster closet, and most of which I see spawn all at once through this window in a sight that makes me have to hunt for a new pair of pants. Enough revenants to fill the Paris catacombs! There's more cyber demons in this one level than in the entirety of Doom 1, Sigil, and Doom 2 combined, the majority of which you have to fight in triplets or quads. I like to think that in the loosely defined Doom canon, this is the encounter that turned the shouty, crazed, blood and guts Doom guy into the mostly silent, walking apocalypse that he is in the modern games. A battle that compressed a human marine like a diamond into an indefatigable golem solely focused on demon murder. Jesus wept. So id was acquired by ZeniMax in 2009, and to nobody's surprise they put out a new re-release of classic Doom in 2010. The surprise part came when they decided to add a few completely new levels to Doom 2, the first levels added by the holder of the Doom IP since Final Doom in 1996, a small expansion titled No Rest for the Living. Kind of a big deal. So they put them solely on the digital release on the Xbox Live Arcade and nowhere else. Though apparently this wasn't much of an issue because the community ripped the levels and put them online real quick. The port was handled by Nerve Software, a company with ties to id via their predecessor, Rogue Entertainment, who shared an office building with id back in the 90s and licensed their engines to make a game called Strife and some Quake 2 expansions. 2 employees at Nerve, Arya Iwakura and Russell Meekum, made a throwback Doom 1 style episode, 8 regular levels and 1 secret. After 2 32-level gauntlets in TNT and Plutonia, that may seem a bit measly, but No Rest for the Living is the epitome of quality over quantity. Right out the gate, the levels feel different. No Rest for the Living was designed 15 years on from Doom 2's release, with all the improvements and limits removed from the engine that were available at the time. Like, look at how dense and detailed this tech base is compared to, say, Doom 2's first map. After Plutonia, going back to pistoling zombie soldiers feels almost quaint. That feeling doesn't last long though, you have to shotgun an Arachnotron in the course of the level's main path. I could leave after only a couple minutes, but there's a bunch of enemies still not dead, so I go exploring. A door past the Arachnotron leads outside to a hidden door where I have to shotgun Mancubi. Okay, getting a little spicier. Grabbing the yellow key triggers an almost Plutonia level ambush as all these unaccounted for enemies come flooding in. I say almost because since you have, at most, a shotgun, chain gun, and chainsaw at this point, and because these levels were designed to be challenging but not grundle-chafing, the enemies that swarm the base are mostly imps, zombies, and pinkies, though a couple spooky skeleton boys are in there too. Going out of your way to do all this gets you a super shotgun on map 1, very nice, though it feels undercut slightly by there also being a super shotgun in one of the first secrets in map 2 that requires just lowering a wall. Okay, I see how it is. I can't glaze up the design of these maps enough. The level of clarity in what you're supposed to do and where you're supposed to go is basically idiot-proof, and I am a level of idiot that pushes supposedly idiot-proof things to their limit. Like, true story, when I was playing Skyrim for the first time, I didn't realize that the dragon claw things that unlock the tombs have the symbols you need on them and was brute forcing the combination locks. My friends have never let me live that down, nor should they. Old school Doom has old school design, and sometimes the intended level progression just isn't clearly communicated. Not here. The only time I ever had to check the wiki for directions was later in the episode, and it was for something that was technically a big giant level-wide puzzle anyway. After the tech bases, we move into more earthy areas and the monster count starts to balloon, but in a good way. The enemy armies in these maps feel like a finely tuned happy medium between the annoying hit scanner hordes of TNT and the spooky skeleton shellackings of Plutonia. There's still a lot of hit scanners, but not enough that it pisses me off, and there's always adequate cover and room to maneuver to hide from Revenant rockets and Mancubi fireballs. Except when the level occasionally glitches out and a fireball flies through the wall and hits me. What? March of the Demons is a great secret level, a detail-heavy tech base including this massive room that empties out giant monster closets in sequence until you get to the last one, which is just beautiful. The big wall opens up to reveal a spider mastermind, which of course draws your eye, but it's a trick, because hidden behind this pillar in the structure of the last monster closet here is an archvile, and unless you kill him quick, he's got a room full of Mancubi and Revenants to potentially resurrect. Standout encounter, amazing. The back half of the episode is more hell levels and they're all great. One other thing that No Rest for the Living does that I really appreciate is that each level has a usually relatively easy to find auto map to help you sniff out secrets, because there's tons of them, up to a dozen in a couple levels. Being able to find those is extremely useful because it seems that the designers made an executive decision to not include any ammo backpacks in the levels, capping you with the default max ammo counts for the duration. I don't mind this, honestly. It adds an extra layer of thinking to your decision making when you become cognizant of it, knowing you need to skirt larger ammo pickups until you can get the full value from them so they aren't wasted. I think the only thing I can really complain about in No Rest for the Living is the BFG situation. The first one you can get is in map 6, Inferno of Blood, requiring hunting down 3 switches across the whole level to access the ledge it's on. This is the bit I mentioned that I had to look up because I ran around the level for an hour trying to find the last switch. By the time I got it though, the map was basically already cleared out. The next map, the penultimate Baron's Banquet, not only has a BFG just kinda sitting there waiting for you to grab it, it also only has one room where the BFG is worth using, this one right before the exit with a horde and an archvile. Kinda disappointing, but only a nitpick in the grand scheme of things. Well, hey there, buddy. You looking for some calcium? Maybe some vitamins? Tomb of Malevolence. Oh, Reagan's gotta be in here. Wait, never mind, it's just a cyber demon and a horde of imps. On the one hand, it's a bit of a lackluster way to cap off the episode, but on the other, it's not the icon of sin again, which means I'm all for it. And that's No Rest for the Living. We're almost there! We made it! We're at the home stretch! Only 2 more episodes to go! I've conquered Plutonia. This ain't gonna be shit.
Do you regret it? Your hubris.
There is a reason this is at the bottom of the selection list. Other than the logical reason of it being in order of release. Legacy of Rust is absolutely, wholly, categorically, completely, undisputedly not fucking around. Do not make the same mistake as I did. Do not, I repeat, do not play this on ultraviolence. Legacy of Rust's difficulty makes Plutonia look like a soak in a hot tub. Unlike in Plutonia, this isn't super obvious at first, though several other things are. From the moment you drop into the first map, Scargate, you can see the further evolution of what's possible in Doom since No Rest for the Living. The amount of detail in even this tech base is bananas. There's new textures on the walls for computers and warning signs, there's a few card tables lying around. It's all back to basics for the first couple minutes, shotgun and zombies, and then you go out the back door and... The Hell Teleporter is a big distraction, though, because once you hit the switch to fire it up, a bunch of lost souls come. Oh, hang on, those aren't lost souls. These are called ghouls. They're actually based on what the lost souls used to look like, and they're the first instance of one of the biggest features of Legacy of Rust. New enemies. The community has been coding in and modifying monsters since forever, so to see it in an official expansion is really cool. I hate these things. They have less health than Lost Souls, but they move way faster and have a projectile attack that apparently does as much damage as an Imp Fireball, but travels way faster and also shoots them way more often, and I'm amazed that they somehow made Lost Souls worse. My first encounter with them in Scargate is whatever, but after leaving for the Sanguine Wastes, my hatred is made pure. This map is basically the designer saying, alright, you're warmed up now, time for pain. Because this one rolls out the Revenants popping out of every crevice, this absolute onslaught when you pick up the rocket launcher, chain gunner ambushes, the works. Also, remember earlier when I said this? The Revenants are rocket launching annoyances, but I just can't help loving them. Yeah, I'm gonna retract that. Plutonia pushed my relationship with the Revenants to its breaking point, but Legacy of Rust tootled in with a sledgehammer and reduced it to fine powder. I don't know what's going on under the hood in this port, but I have never had this much trouble dodging Revenant rockets, even the homing ones. Did they do something to them? Revenants now occupy the same level of target priority as friggin' Archviles for me, except they show up way more often. This level also introduces the second new enemy, Banshees, screaming clouds that explode when they die. I don't mind them, especially because if you play things right, you can use them like exploding barrels. Okay, that was a mean 100+ monster level. The enemy count is going to stay about there, right? This fills me with unspeakable dread because Ashmill is a secret level. Oh, this is a bit grim. Oh, hello friends, what are you? Not friends! Not friends! Not friends! These evil gremlins that look like you are called shock troopers, a new variant of zombie soldier packing plasma rifles, and you remember how that thing is incredibly powerful in your hands? Well, now these guys have it. But surely that means you'll get plenty of plasma ammo off them, right? A fair trade? Well, not quite. See, the other big community's done it plenty, but now we're making it official thing in Legacy of Rust is the addition of 2 new weapons that replace the plasma rifle and BFG respectively. You pick up the former here, the incinerator, a burst fire flamethrower, and it's pretty good. You won't see much of it for a bit though, ammo for it is kinda scarce until later. Leaving Ashmill, I'm appreciating its gimmick and them dedicating a whole level to introducing a new enemy. I get to Spirit Drains and I'm ready to deal with another 100 and change monsters perhaps. Then I open the auto map and... Spirit Drains reveals the true form of Legacy of Rust. Though the level count is half the size of Plutonia, it makes up for it by making each map the equivalent of 3 or 4 Plutonia maps Frankenstein together, into a game design Terminator with the sole directive of outright murdering you. The traps in this map are straight up sadistic, without the comforting hope of thorough resupply and reward like in Plutonia. You fight your ass off for every key, every room, every weapon, every inch of progress. Like, look what you have to go through just to get the super shotgun. The level ends with another new enemy reveal, the Visagos, big mean charcoal demons with cattle skulls. They don't fly, thankfully, but they're chunky boys with as much health as a Baron and a nasty fireball attack that hits like a Mancubus cannonball if you take one directly to the face. The fire also lingers in the impact zone and deals tick damage for a few seconds. I actually really like the Visagos. They add a new dimension to encounters with the area denial aspect of their attacks. Said fireballs also make it really easy to get all the other monsters to gang up on them by causing infighting. It's hilarious. The next map, Descending Inferno, is another dense tech base with another new threat, the Mind Weaver. An evil Arachnotron variant that has the Mastermind shotgun cannon. They suck. Shock Troopers also start appearing more frequently, and due to the frequency and speed of their plasma attacks, it's also easy to get them to infight with other monsters. I also love how their death animation has them doing this little yelp and then their head flies off and does a little flip. Makes me laugh. I have to laugh because this shit is getting tedious. Every single room an absolute gauntlet on through the next level creeping hate. Then we hit what I think is the worst map in Legacy of Rust with the Coiled City. Visually striking for sure, but with a confusing as fuck design requiring navigating along these narrow ledges, repeated back and forth trips to this lava area, and some absolutely dickish ambushes. The only monsters here are the new ones. Save for a couple Archviles, of course! Double-digit amounts of Visagos, Shock Troopers, and ghouls swarm you while you try to navigate. We've blown far past Fun Challenge and wound up at Get Me the Hell Outta Here. Only positive thing I can mention is that you get the other new weapon here, the Calamity Blade, which... Oh, yeah, that's nice. The episode ends with another circular arena map, and then the demons huck you in a cage instead of just outright killing you. Why? Bizarrely, I found the second episode, Vulcan Abyss, much less of a pain for the most part. Maybe like with Plutonia, I got acclimated to Legacy of Rust expectations. It starts with Second Coming, which is what I like to call a scramble map. Enemies are alerted from the word go. You have to take off immediately to start rounding up keys in your weapons, some of which are guarded by upper mid-tier monsters that you basically have to be like, don't mind me, just a humble traveler who needs a key, bye! I have zero clue how I survived this mosh pit of enemies. All of this is underscored by a great MIDI track called Bonk that actually goes pretty hard. Every map in the expansion but Ashmill has a piece of original music to go with it, all made by one Zazer Acheron, a guy who currently works for Night Dive but has like 20 years worth of mapping and modding credits to his name. The tracks are less ambient grim like the stuff in Vanilla Doom and more like Lee Jackson's bouncy, energetic songs for Rise of the Triad. It's great stuff. Zazer also made several of the maps, including the Coiled City, but I'll try not to hold that against him. Falsehood is another big map, but not as mean. There's plenty of room to maneuver. I already have a super shotgun and rocket launcher for the problem enemies, and I picked the incinerator back up here too. Thinning the herd is easier with Visagos to trigger infights, and they don't take less damage from the incinerator like you might think they would. Disunion. Fuck this map too. The progression path is wonky, the revenants are just pissing me off now, and this circular blood pit room that you have to wait out a timer to get the red key while being bombarded by pain elementals and cacodemons would be a fine challenge if I had a BFG. But I don't, because it's not in this expansion, and I don't have the Calamity Blade yet, and I'm all out of incinerator ammo, and the Lost Souls keep intercepting my rockets! Screw this, I'm going to the secret level. What do you mean I need the red key to get there? Are you kidding me? Panopticon is at least a kind of fun gimmicky secret level where you need to use a cyber demon against the other enemies because there's no ammo to pick up if you run out. Echoes of Pain and the Rack are back-to-back solid levels, but without anything I really feel like talking about. Panopticon gives you a Calamity Blade at the end, so I'm fully kitted out, and Kaiser, the other main designer of Legacy's levels, seems a bit more generous with resources than Zacer and designs his maps with a more obvious progression sequence. I leave the Rack with full health and plenty of ammo, which is good, because next is Soul Silo. Probably the best looking tech base I've seen yet, lots of custom texturing and leaning heavily on the green slime, and also Zacer's best music track. This map is basically an escalating sequence of the meanest ambushes possible. Starts off innocuous enough, a pack of ghouls swarming out of this thing here, through the halls lined with Visagos and Revenants to this room here, where I know something bad's coming because they actually put an invincibility right out in the open and not inside a secret. Okay, next the blue key. Okay, then the yellow key. Okay. Zacer, are you fucking kidding me? Wait, he didn't design this map. Sorry man, you're off the hook. I thought Go To It would have the most cyber demons I'd ever have to fight at once with 4, but the last ambush in Soul Silo has 8. 8! Though thankfully the arena is designed so that the horizontal axis the Calamity Blade fires on is just above the floor these things are standing on, so you can kill them by toasting their toes. I am so close, just one more level to go. Brink actually circles back around into almost being another scramble map, though in this case, instead of hurrying to gather resources, you're hurrying to stay ahead of the level's treachery. These big lunks aren't cyber demons, they're tyrants like the Doom Eternal monster. Less health, but the rockets are still lethal. Killing them drops you into a maze where the real threat lies. Visagos come pouring out of every nook and cranny, and you have to dodge around them to pick up a pair of keys. Picking up one lets some archviles loose for added fun. I think certain doors outright lock permanently behind you in this level, because I know I didn't kill all the Visagos in the maze before leaving it, but none of them followed me. Though they didn't need to, because there's like 50 more in here. Okay, I'm hurting, I'm tired, but I'm almost done. You ever wonder how many archviles is too many? You probably haven't. But it's this many. Last room. Oh yeah, by the way, we're nuking hell in this, which means Ronald Reagan was definitely here somewhere. No time to think of the possible ramifications of that and find him, just gotta... God damn it, Zacer! You make great music, but I'm never, ever playing your maps on Ultraviolence again, you sick bastard. I struggled for a bit to figure out how to end this beast of a video. Part of me wanted to just end it on the joke about Reagan and yelling at Zacer, but after sitting with it for a while and realizing that I have 45 hours of Doom footage to sift through, that doesn't feel right, not for something like this in this moment in time. I feel like we're approaching an inflection point in the history of the gaming industry. We live in an era of ballooning project budgets resulting in final products that, while good-looking, are mostly just open-world checklist collectathons. Like, remember Rise of the Ronin? This was featured in a bunch of PlayStation showcases over the past few years, and I've heard nothing about it since it released almost a year ago? And I even enjoy these kinds of games on occasion, don't get me wrong, but like, I'm probably never gonna play Horizon Zero Dawn again, because I have the Platinum Trophy for it. I've seen everything the game has to offer, and I don't need to buy a remaster of a game that's not even a decade old yet. Sony, come on, the people crave Bloodborne. Opposite of that, we have the even bigger problem of every major corporate entity in gaming chasing a higher bottom line, with a fervor that would make Ahab himself tell them to chill out. Just this past week, Nintendo unveiled the Switch 2, and people were quick to discover that we're now going to be out almost $80 a pop for the first-party games on it. And to you Europeans and Canadians out there, I'm so sorry. The AAA economy is unsustainable forever. People don't want to work for studios that will lay them off at a moment's notice, even when they make something beloved. Yes, I'm talking about Tango Gameworks. I'm still not over that. Companies grind talented, passionate developers into paste, chasing a bottom line that will never be enough. But I guarantee you this. As the vultures scramble to snap up the last morsels of revenue from live service games, as more game developers go into business for themselves and produce fucking amazing works of art but just don't make all the money, as the world continues to turn in ways we can and cannot foresee, Doom will remain. Everything I played for this video was the official release you can buy on Steam. It's like $10 by default, but I got it on sale for less than the price of a Big Mac. And that's just if you want a nice, no-hassle package to experience all of Doom's main expansions. Like I mentioned in the intro, the source code for Doom has been available forever. There's 100 source ports that you can find and download with a quick Google. And when you have those source ports, you can then download an unfathomable amount of custom episodes, maps, mods, you name it. Doom's community has been making new content for it for 3 decades. It is mind-blowing to me that the Cake Awards, a community-driven annual awards ceremony, has a Best Newcomers section. As everything gets more expensive, I find it kinda beautiful that there's a community of people making content for this game that's old enough to regret having a couple of kids. For free. For no other reason than that they love to do it. That's the kind of fan base that makes a game immortal. People will still be making levels for Doom after the heat death of the universe. Because it's timeless. Because it's forever. And because one day I will find a level where I can go to hell, find Ronald Reagan, and shove the BFG 9000 right up his shriveled, wrinkled... Fuck. Then we hit what I think is the worst map in Legacy of Rush. Legacy of Rush. We are the... How does 2112 go?